right, we have the webinar recording starting. So anyone watching from the recording, hi, welcome to today's webinar, and as well as the guests here. Today's webinar, material management in Seidat. It's been breaking down into pieces. I have the agenda on the few slides forward. The webinar should take an hour or a bit less than an hour. Let's see if we have questions at the end. I have reserved some time for that. But before we jump into it, I would like to mention that we are quite active in social media, sharing tips and tricks to Seidat, but also revealing our ways of working and who we are as employees and so on. So if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on those different channels. But yeah, I'm Joona Taskinen. I've been working at the company for quick math 7 years almost. So time flies. I joined the company as a project manager, still doing project management work. Expanded to get some other responsibilities, but mainly due to working with the customers, managing their materials in the beginning of their Seidat journey. I have gotten a lot of experience in how to manage the materials in Seidat, and that's why I'm hosting the webinar. You can find my social media, LinkedIn link there. We're going to share the material after the webinar is over. So if you want to follow me there, feel free to do so. Or if you have any things on your mind, you can also call me, preferably not during the webinar. Today's webinar, we are going to introduce, first of all, what does it mean, the management in Seidat, what are the challenges people typically face that they're trying to solve with Seidat. I'm going to introduce the core idea behind what features we have, and then I'm going to show what are the best practices with the different features. So we're going to talk a bit about the context first, and then jump into the features. Then I'm going to reveal a few advanced techniques that you can utilize when maintaining your material, that it remains up to date, relevant, and so on. Those include analytics, integrations, and stuff beyond just managing through the features that we have. And then at the end, a few tips and tricks along the way about the sharing, and yeah, questions and answers if there are any at the end or during the webinar. You can use the live chat in the application. So it's on the bottom right corner. There's a speech bubble, so you can ask any questions there. If you open the mic, it's fine, but just so you know that it's going to be recorded in the webinar recording as well. So it's up to you. All right. What do we typically mean when we talk about management in Seidat? I would like to start with what are the challenges typically faced with pretty much any presentation tool. We are trying to solve this, so I would, on my biased point of view, I would say that Seidat is helping to combat these, but the challenges typically faced with presentations are, for example, that in a larger team, you might have fragmented materials. Somebody might be using a really outdated materials, and people are just using essentially whatever. And it is very hard to tackle those sort of problematic materials because you might not even be aware what people are using. Then, because people are creating it sort of in their own silos, you often end up having lower quality than intended by the, let's say, brand management or any other party in your company who would like to keep the material both graphically but also content-wise high quality. Then it's quite often hard, slow, or even impossible to develop the content, develop the presentations, again, due to the same reason that they are on somebody's computer somewhere. And even though you develop better presentation, better materials for your people, or they create them themselves, they are necessarily not ending up in the other person's use. So it might be that somebody takes the latest version into use, but most likely not all of them. Then missing sales concept means that the presentation might not be developed in the sense of having a clear sales concept. Again, this may be because the salespersons might create the materials themselves. Nobody knows what they use, so they just create whatever they need, not necessarily what the company would like to message out. Cooperation, again, falling to the same silo effect that everyone has their own. And these are all pieces that we have been trying to improve in all the users who use Seidat to combat. And today I'm going to dive into those, how you can, through features, but also through best practices and beyond, focus on this management side of aspects. So first, let's jump into the core features, or the core ideas rather, that we have in Seidat about management. The idea is that the material will always stay consistent. So that's regardless who presents, everyone has the same material and also up to date. So whenever the graphical side or content-wise stuff change, they would change with everyone. The broad features that we have are brand. So you can manage the brand of the presentations or brand of the company from one place. Then we have a media bank, so you can manage what sort of images, videos, and stuff people are using in the material. And it's also transparent that if there are some stuff that shouldn't be there, we can view in how many presentations it's been used. We can replace them and so on and so forth. Then we have smart slides. It's one of the most powerful features of Seidat. It helps to have consistent materials in hundreds or at least tens of presentations. For example, you may have your key figures in smart slides, and whenever there's an update into those, it will update with every instance of a smart slide. Then through embedding content from outside of Seidat, it doesn't necessarily help in keeping it up to date, but it might reduce the places where you need to update certain materials. So let's say you have a logo wall somewhere of your references on your website, for example. You may embed that to a presentation, and then you don't need to update the logo wall of references in your website. And on Seidat, you only need to do it once in the website. That's just one example, maybe not the best example of embedding and hence reducing the workload. Also, I would like to point out that typically in Seidat, it's a joint effort that people from different sort of teams will work together in creating the materials. It might not be layered action. It might be that sometimes marketing sees that, hey, we have a image that we're not supposed to use anymore, or the product management sees that, hey, we have a price that is no longer valid. The sales materials are updated quite constantly by the sales team themselves, and sort of everything in the transparent and open system come together And here's another example of how it can progress in a linear fashion, that the marketing team creates some company slides, product management adds sort of the product side of things into those presentations. Then the business verticals may add some sales specific slides to those business units. And then the customer facing people, typically the sales reps, may add some material that they want to fine tune for this specific customer. It may be that the front page has a customer logo, or there's a text of why we are discussing the offer or whatever it is. But in the end, typically it's like I said, it's a joint effort that different teams bring their expertise into one, and then create the final, whatever the material is, presentation in Seidat's case. But it's not, as I mentioned, it's not a constant like one-way street, because the marketing team can also comment and help the sales reps in the final stages of the presentation if they have the resources to do so, or if the company practices are in place. The sales reps can easily get help from the marketing team, and the marketing team can, without even requests, check that, okay, are the sales reps creating the material as they're supposed to, following the brand guidelines, for example. I will now cover the best practices from feature point of view. We will cover the dashboard, how you can manage the material in that view. Smart slides, media bank, brand management, user management, tags, and other stuff. And then, well, links I will also quickly add. They've been labeled hotspots in the past, but now we just we have changed the feature a bit, and we're talking about links nowadays. The presentation dashboard is, if you have been using Seidat in the past, you know that it's the place where all the material sort of lives, where you can browse all the material, all the presentations in your workspace. It can be filtered, or you can filter out specific presentations in that view by using tags. I will come to those a bit later. But in essence, it's a place where it's easy to see what materials have been updated the latest, and what materials people often use. How we use the dashboard to maintain some materials in Seidat is that we have presentations, master presentations are one of the key things that we have. And then different teams, our marketing, customer success, graphic designer, and so on and so forth, can update the master presentation, and then the different sales reps can take that master presentations from the material bank that we have. But managing the dashboard itself, I would raise few things to keep in mind. Tags is one. Again, I will come back to those. But naming the presentations is another small, quick thing that will help everyone in the workspace to find the material that they are looking for. And a second thing is that the presentation access management, which is open from here, from this button, it's a way to grant access to a certain user group. I will come back again to what the user groups mean, but you can hide presentations or grant additional access to certain persons in the company. Again, management-wise, if you have board materials, for example, it's a good example, in your workspace, you may want to hide it from everyone else in your Seidat workspace, then the board members. And easiest way management-wise is to create the board materials as a normal presentation, but then just hide the materials by pressing this, and then hiding it and adding the user group board, for example, to only view and edit. I will show the board, the groups in a bit later. Then one of the key features that I mentioned in Seidat is smart slides. Managing smart slides is rather easy. They are similar to any other slide in the content itself, but these are slides that can be used in multiple different presentations at once. Here you can see a snapshot of smart slides in our actual workspace, and you can see that some of the slides have been used in thousands of presentations. And when updating these materials, it might seem daunting to update a slide that is used in 6,214 presentations, but in reality, it's the quickest way to keep all the different presentations up to date. As far as people are using smart slides correctly, it is the easiest and the most powerful way to update any materials in these presentations. Smart slides can be found, all of them can be found in the Smart Slide Bank. If you have the access, you can edit them here, or anyone with the access can edit them in the presentations themselves. You can add tags, so these tags essentially to any of the slides, which will help you find the certain slides easier, or you can use the search function also found on the page. And whenever you update, here we have updated just the cover page, but whenever you update the smart slide, it will automatically update in all of the different presentations that use it. Here's a quick example as a GIF. Maybe not the prettiest slide or example, but anyways, once we save it, it automatically updates in all of the presentations, and it's easy to see from here because it's a cover slide that we're updating in this GIF. Then the media bank. Again, if you have been using Seidat, you know that Seidat has a media bank. You can upload videos and images to that, also GIFs. Management-wise, there are sort of best practices are that material that is meant to be used commonly by different people in your organization should be in folders that people will find the images from. So in our example here, we have the media bank, which is the root. Then we have backgrounds, and then we have 2020 textures, for example. So whoever's creating the material needs a background, will find this, and then there are a few folders where they can find the images that they are looking for. Rather straightforward, but still something that when you have a lot of people might forget that foldering correctly and adding the images to folders is the way to go. Then one way to, well, this is not the prettiest slide I made it today, but anyways, one way to keep the material up to date through the media bank is by replacing old image, old video with the new. So you can choose multiple images up to any amount there is in that folder, and you can replace the images with the image you choose. So in this case, I have two logos. Well, they're the exact same, but they could be slightly different. You choose whichever logo you want to keep. So that will replace all the other logos on the slides. And when you're creating the slides, it is best to use on the slide itself the images in either fill or fit, because once you, in this case, it wouldn't matter because they're the exact frame ratio, the logos. But if they're different, choosing fit or fill, depending on what kind of image it is, I recommend you to test it in your workspace, will allow you to keep the frame ratio correct. But depending on what the image is, in this case with the logo, it would be best to have it as fit, because it means it's gonna use the area that is designed to designated to it, and just fit the image there. It's not gonna crop anything out. With fill, it might just fill the whole area. So if it's not the correct size, it will just fill it. With images like these logos here, fit is generally the best. With background images, for example, it may be that the fill is the best option. But yeah, few things regarding the media bank that you can keep in mind to help you keep the stuff up to date. Then moving on to brand settings. So again, if you've been using Seidat, you most likely have set up the brand if you're the brand manager, or then it's just sort of handed down to you. In short, you can set up colors and text styles in Seidat. Starting with the colors, you can set multiple color palettes. We typically have main color palette, the main brand colors that the brand has, and then there's the sub brands typically. There can be as many as there is, or if you have multiple companies working and using the same Seidat team in a group, it might be this way, and different companies may have different brands, then you can set those up. And those can be used in the slide editor then quite easily. So people who create the materials will be offered the correct colors every time, and it's quite easy then if you have few different companies working in the same to have those as sub brands in there. One thing to keep in mind is that I would use those color palettes, different color palettes, also to guide your employees. So if you have any hierarchy on what color should be used the most, I would again create these kind of sub brand, and I would instruct that main brands, for example, and people of course understand that, hey, these are the ones that I need to use. And then you may have sub brand, and then you may add some text here also that use cautiously or whatever. And in our case, we have the primary colors that you can see throughout the presentation, and then we have the accent colors that we use every now and then in some text or on the background sometimes. But yeah, this is quite typical way to use the brand colors in Seidat. And what comes to the text options is that again, it's quite simple. You set those up, and then everyone who will create the materials will just follow the same styles. So you can choose that, okay, you want to use the blue one. In these screenshots, they are actually a bit different, but the blue one and white ones, and then you can choose whatever font family you want to use, and so on and so forth. Then the best practices in managing users and user groups. So you can set up, this is rather a new feature in Seidat, but you can set up different user groups. And in this demo account, we have 4 different groups. We have board of directors, we have marketing, domestic sales, and international sales. And the idea is that whenever we add a user, we can add them to one group. So the marketing guru is in marketing group, and CEO is, for example, part of board of directors and marketing. Could be also in all of them. And this, going back to the user management on the presentation level, will allow us to add whichever group as the let's say the editors of the presentation, and hide it or restrict it from everyone else. This is the way we use in our own workspace, for example, that we have the board material there. Whenever there's changes in the board composition, we can easily just edit the group, and then all the material will follow the group, rather than us needing to go to every board material and edit those individually. So that's the user groups first. And then again, if you've been using Seidat for a while, you know that there is each individual user that we can assign different access levels. So in this case, I have the highest in both categories, in the team management and in the content management. So the content management are from least to most powerful. No rights, which is somebody who as a default cannot do anything. In many workspaces, you don't need this. Viewer, as you might expect, can view presentation. Sharer can also share. So these actually pile up. So editor can share, view, and edit. Smart slide editor can, of course, edit the smart slides as well. And brand manager can edit the brand. And how I recommend managing your users is that you grant them the required access, at least. So if they're sales directors or something, they might require having smart slide editing access. Sort of normal sales reps may be best suited to have the editor access if you don't trust them enough that they will need the smart slide editing. And then somebody who understands brand settings should be a brand manager. But I would refrain from granting the maximum access to everyone, because it, in most cases, it won't cause anything, but it can lead into having too much access and then doing something that you're not supposed to do. Here's another example on how we typically instruct our employees and our new users who start using Seidat. So those who manage and develop the materials, they may be, again, marketing. They might have the brand, smart slide, and editor access. Well, if you have brand manager access, then you have also these. Then the weekly usage of sales, account management, directors, and so on, they typically only need editor access. And then somebody who's using every now and then, but they don't really need access to edit all that often, may be suited with the sharing access. But in some cases, editing, smart slide editor. It's up to you to decide. All the users in the workspace are, well, they're the same price regardless of the user level, so it doesn't really matter in that sense. But it's just one thing to help you keep the workspace organized. Then I've been talking about tags a bit. Just a really quick introduction to those is that you can assign tags. This is actually outdated GIF. We need to update it. But you can add nowadays GIFs from the dashboard. And whenever you add GIF, not GIF, but a tag to a presentation, you can then filter them out from here. Same with the smart slide that I showed you earlier. What we recommend in a workspace to have as tags is, if you're a smaller team, then having the names. So you may have John, Jane, and whatever. And then the use cases. So if you have sales materials, tag them with the sales tag and so on. If you're operating with multiple languages like we are with Finnish and Swedish and English, then having the languages and also product names if you have multiple different product categories, languages again. Then a few other tips before we move to the next phase of the webinar. You can create hyperlinks and that sort of stuff. That's pretty basic to any presentation tool. But one thing I want to point out with the smart slides, or in conjunction with the smart slide, is that if you have a smart slide and you have, let's say, an email or a phone number, and you have added links to those, or it may be a LinkedIn button like here, when you edit the smart slide, it is going to be edited in all of the presentations. So again, this is something that will help you manage the material. So let's say you have the salesperson's slide, then the salesperson gets a new phone number. You can edit it in one place, and it will be up to date in all the different places you have. Right? So that's pretty much the basic features that we have, and I would like to show a few more advanced features that can be used to help with the management of the users that you have in your workspace, but also with updating the materials. So let's start with analytics. So analytics is, of course, something that can be relevant or can be totally just beneficial, but not something that you actually need to use. But in Seidat's case, you have both internal analytics, we call them in-app analytics, or you have external analytics. In the internal analytics, you typically use these because it's just a really powerful feature for the salespeople to know when their material is open by using the email notifications or just viewing how many times the presentation has been opened. So everyone using Seidat will see what link has been open and how many times, and if they have the email notifications open, they can know exactly when the presentation has been opened by checking the emails that they have received from the system. So this is something that mainly falls to the benefit of the individual user, maybe not so much of a management thing. But then the external analytics that we also offer, so you can hook up through Google Tag Manager pretty much any analytics tool into Seidat. Here are some examples. You have Google Analytics, which is pretty basic in any company. Lead Feeder, HubSpot, Albacross, Facebook, and so many more. You can use those to analyze and develop your materials based on how the other or how they have been browsed and viewed by your clients or potential clients. And what we have also done for our workspace for internal use is to use Google or it's Looker Studio now, and it will help us see more clear picture on how the material that we send out has been used, so we can view how many slides have been opened, which slides, and so on. So if you're interested in that, you can send us a message and we can together check what tools you may be using and how to utilize the analytics together with the other tools. All right. Then integrations is something that we have offered through Zapier for a while. We have now just recently, in I think past few months, updated the Zapier integration to even better offer features that our users actually use, with the new Seidat features that we have published. We also, I don't have any material from that here, but we have a Pipedrive. So if you're using Pipedrive as your CRM, then you may integrate Seidat with Pipedrive directly. So we have a native integration, and it works pretty much the same as I'm going to explain here with Zapier. But Zapier, in a nutshell, is a tool that you can integrate with, I think on their website today, they say like 7,000 or 8,000 or something like that tools together. So the list expands probably daily on the integrations you can do. And depending on the level of the two companies, how well they have created their integration, then it may vary between the two tools how much you can do and if it's something that will help you. But one example I would like to point out is the automation of creating presentations, and this I think fits to today's agenda of management, because it may allow you as a company to create really good materials, templates, which possibly automation will then finalize, or at least bring to really close to being finalized without any human interaction. And this, in some cases, may be the best practice. Let's say you have a business which can create offers that are quite standard in a sort of in your company's perspective, that they don't vary all that much from one another. So you have done really good job at making the product simple to sell. And in those cases, you could automate the whole creation process and even sharing to the client from the early discussions till sending the proposal. What the integration can do is it can trigger based on numerous different factors, and this typically means that in CRM the material would be sent to added to a certain stage in your pipeline, and then it is the automation triggers. Then it will create the material, it will update it, it can even share the material forward, and so on. Here is one example in more visual way. So person fills a form on the website. Again, this would be something that you could immediately send, and then the trigger would trigger, and then it would automatically create the material in Seidat, update it, and send it to the client. Since this webinar is about managing the material, it also goes, in my point of view, much further than just the features that we offer. And here are some things that I would like to sort of raise as a topic. I don't necessarily have answers on how each company needs to do it, but these are something that every company should think, at least on a surface level. So do you have a person who is responsible of how you use Seidat? I mean, it's a simple tool, but what I've noticed is that it's good to have somebody in a bigger organization, at least, who is responsible of taking care of the materials, who is responsible of managing the users, who takes care of the brand settings and so on. So all of the features that I've covered today, it is good that there is at least some sort of a consensus in a company of more than one person who is responsible of what. I've seen a few times that nobody is sort of taking the responsibility, and that typically leads that people just wait on somebody else to do the whatever needs to be done, and then it may not be used in the full extent in the end. Then when the team grows, you get new people, or the Seidat tool progresses, we develop new features to bring even more value. It's a good question that are people using Seidat aware of the new features? So we try to do our best in informing our new users in the application and in newsletters and in webinars like these and in social media and so on, whenever there's a new thing. But especially with new users, it is important that again, somebody shows them that, hey, this is how we use it. These are the features and values and stuff that you get from Seidat. It can be you, it can be somebody from your organization, or just me in this webinar, for example. So it doesn't really matter who it is and who takes care of it, but it's something that should be kept at least in the mind when new people start using Seidat, or when the years go past and Seidat develops. And on this topic, it's good to also, especially in bigger companies where you might have 10, 20, 30 people using Seidat daily, to document the best practices. They come back to those first two on this slide. So who is responsible, for example, if you need more access, who are you going to ask? How do you use colors in your presentation? Where do you find the templates and so on? There are a lot of questions that every user may have. And what I've noticed is good practice is that you may have some sort of a just a presentation in the workspace itself, where you explain a few of the most common questions that you may have. All righty. Then a few tips on collaboration and sharing. These may be a bit more simpler things to more experienced user, but I will tell a bit about the automation and integration sharing options at the end in just a minute. So for those who don't use or haven't used Seidat for a long time, may not be aware that we have quite extensive different sharing options available in Seidat. Of course, whoever's in that workspace in your team added there can also see all the material if they're not hidden. But then the most common sharing methods are through the link share. So you can share the Seidat links, which are essentially just access to view with pretty much any method you want. Most typically they are sent in email or SMS or WhatsApp or whatever. You can change the link mode depending on what the need is. It's as a default, it's browse, so anyone can browse the material. Or as in this case, I for the webinar attendees, I shared the link in the beginning of the webinar as a live link. So whenever I change slide, it will change slides for everyone watching. And if I would want anyone with the link to be able to change the slide, I could do that as well. So this is the main method of sharing the materials with the link. Then you have direct share, which is sharing to a third party Seidat user. So if you know that somebody is using Seidat, or you feel that they would be happy to have all the materials in one place, and start using Seidat for free, you can send to any email the presentations, and they will receive it. They will log in again for free, no strings attached, and then they can see all the materials that has been sent to them from you and from pretty much anyone who uses Seidat. This is maybe a bit more seldomly used, mainly if you know that the client is using Seidat, then it makes more sense. But the easiest way is the link share for sure. And then in some cases, you may need the customer to have a PDF version of the material, or they may request it, which you can then download from Seidat. We have also added a feature which allows a button on the bottom of the page that anyone with the Seidat link can download a PDF themselves. So they will add their email, and then a PDF will be sent to that email. E-sign is a feature which allows the e-signature or signing the content all in Seidat. But I will leave that to another webinar. But yeah, here's an overview of the share tab, so you can create as many links as you need to a presentation. But yeah, we were discussing just a moment ago about the integrations, and I mentioned that you can share the material also automatically. And this is something that, again, if you can create the process with the material that you're creating, it may be some guide, for example. We have created automations when somebody orders a presentation guide from us, for example, that it will create an individual link using the integration, and then it's sent automatically through our email service to the client, so we don't need to do anything, and the client gets a unique link to the material. We can, if we want to keep track of the material, we can toggle on link notifications automatically to that material, and that's one way. Again, a bit more sophisticated way. In some cases, it may be required to be used. Yes, so that was our webinar content today. We have 10 minutes, right on time, as I targeted to leave 10 minutes for questions if we have any. But before we take any questions, I would like to point out that we have on our website, this is embedded from our website, we have under resources and Seidat Academy, we have all the future webinars and past webinars posted there. So you can see upcoming webinars. We tend to do sort of these training webinars where we teach about the features, but also add some content on best practices and all that. And then we have these sort of not so tied to Seidat itself, these sort of webinars where we example check trends and how to create good materials and so on. Of course, again, a bit biased, we tend to create our materials in Seidat and so on, but they are good webinars to get inspired by sales and presentations and all that. I will take this slide, and now we will take questions if there is any from Nicole. All right, perfect. Yeah, if you have any questions later on, you can contact us on social media, contact me directly, or you can find all the contact details on our website, or you can find the chat on our website if you have any questions going along. I would say that.